When I slid the divorce agreement in front of Jason, he was busy replying to a text from Lily. Without even lifting his head, he signed his name. My nails tapped crisply against the solid wood desk. "While I can still talk to you calmly," I said. Only then did Jason look up. His gaze swept from my new Valentino heels to my Birkin bag, both of which I bought myself. He suddenly smiled, that same effortless smile I'd seen for 20 years. He casually spun his wedding ring around his finger and said, "Just because I came back early to accompany Lily for a checkup. Her hemoglobin was 6, she needed urgent treatment." I cut him off, pulled a medical report from my bag, and slapped it onto the table. "Funny, the records I found show it was between 8 and 9, just ordinary anemia." His expression finally shifted. I knew that subtle micro-expression all too well. His jaw tightened for exactly half a second. That was always his tell when someone caught him lying. The last time I saw that was at our wedding, when Lily accidentally spilled red wine on my dress. "You investigated her?" His tone dropped cold, like he was conducting an interrogation. "You really investigated her?" I laughed out loud. "Don't forget, Mr. Miller, you're the biggest shareholder of Central Hospital." Jason shot to his feet so fast his tailored suit grazed the edge of the desk. The movement reminded me of last year's board meeting, how he stood up just like that to block a toast meant for me. I thought he looked so charming then. Now I realize that toast was meant for the seat where Lily should have been sitting. The office door suddenly burst open. Lily walked in, wearing the latest runway collection. Funny, this was the same dress I saw being altered at last month's brand salon. "Jason," she said sweetly, her voice dripping with honey, "the clinic is rushing us." I grabbed my bag and turned to leave, but a cold hand grabbed my wrist. The diamond on Lily's finger jabbed into my skin. It was cut in the traditional Miller family style, painfully recognizable. "Anna," she said, her eyes glistening with tears, "there's really nothing between me and Jason." I slowly pulled my hand away and plucked a short hair from his shoulder. "I personally styled his hair this morning before he left," I said with a smile, flicking the strand away. "Next time you sneak around, remember to clean up." Jason suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Anna Miller," he said. I looked down at the hand that once held mine so tenderly, remembering how that same hand had comforted Lily over the phone last night, telling her not to be afraid of the blood draw. How ironic. I was hospitalized last weekend for bleeding, and he hadn't even looked at my file. "Oh, right?" I shook him off and pulled a velvet box from my bag, tossing it onto the table. "Your precious family heirloom." The emerald ring inside hit the edge of the table with a sharp clink, just like my 20 years of devotion. It shattered clean and final. As the elevator doors closed, I heard Lily's sobbing. "It's all my fault." Through the narrowing gap, I saw Jason bending down to pick up the ring. There was a faint coffee stain on the back of his suit, left from the last cup I ever made for him. My phone buzzed inside my bag. It was a call from interrogation. I unlocked it, opened the window, and tossed the phone out. From the 38th floor, the fall was more than enough to shatter every last piece of youthful delusion. As I stepped out of the building, the sunlight was perfect. 20 years of growing up together, 5 years of marriage. I touched the empty space on my ring finger and suddenly laughed. Turns out, even the air after leaving him still carried the scent of that fading cup of coffee. When I shut down my computer, the city outside had already lit up. I rubbed my sore neck as the neon lights of the CBD came alive. The entire city had entered night mode. I unlocked my phone. The first post in my feed was from Lily. Another checkup for anemia again. The photo showed a hand wearing a wedding ring I knew too well. Just last week I had personally trimmed the nails on that hand. I smirked, my finger paused on the screen for 2 seconds before I firmly swiped it away. A message from 7 hours ago still sat quietly in my notification bar. "Dinner tonight at Red Grape Hotel. Let's eat together." How amusing. He had just taken his beloved to a checkup, and now he remembered to have dinner with me. That French restaurant used to be his go-to spot to win me over. I opened interrogation's profile, tapped block without hesitation. The crisp ding from my phone sounded like the final punctuation mark to this entire relationship. The photo frame on my desk still displayed our wedding picture. I turned it face down and picked up my coat, ready to leave. Just then, my assistant knocked and entered. "Miss Miller, Would you like me to reserve dinner for you tonight? No need, I said, grabbing my bag and heading to the elevator. Jason was supposed to have dinner with his parents tonight. When I opened the front door to my parents' house, the crystal chandelier in the living room was glaringly bright. My mom put down her teacup, frowning slightly. Why do you look so pale? Did you have a fight with Jason? Just work, I replied. Too much going on, and I haven't rested well. I kicked off my heels and stepped barefoot onto the cold hardwood floor. My dad looked up from his finance magazine. Hire a few more assistants. Jason's quick and efficient, you should learn from him. I paused with the teacup in my hand. Mom, Dad, Jason and I are getting a divorce. The porcelain cup clinked sharply against the tray. My father slammed his magazine shut. He bullied you, didn't he? I'll speak to the Miller family right now. It's not about who's right or wrong, I interrupted. It's just... His eyes narrowed. Business is business. The partnership between our families won't be affected. My mother took my hand. Her palm was warm and dry, reminding me of when I scraped my knee as a child, and she'd gently hold my hand and say, "It doesn't hurt." Have you really thought it through? My dad asked with a long sigh. My phone buzzed. A message from my best friend Sophie. Blue Bay Gala tonight. That German investor you wanted to meet just arrived. I stood up, grabbing my bag. At the doorway I turned and gave them a faint smile. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. My mom pressed a piece of almond brittle into my hand. Don't overdo it. As the night breeze brushed my cheek, I took a bite of the brittle. The sweet, buttery taste melted on my tongue. Turns out, in a world without Jason, even the night wind felt free. At the Blue Bay Gala, the crystal chandeliers scattered shards of light across the room. I had just popped a French fry into my mouth when I heard a familiar teasing voice from the booth next to mine. Young Master Miller's out partying, but still glued to his phone? Another voice chimed in, slick and mocking. Which lucky lady is our dear Jason personally sweet-talking tonight? Who else? Jason's voice answered, indulgent and tinged with helpless affection. That little firecracker at home, Miss Anna Miller, she's got quite the temper. A third voice snorted. What'd you do this time? Jason replied. I cut my Italy trip short to take Lily to her checkup. His glass clinked lightly against the table. Her hemoglobin was down to 6. Oh, please. The man dragged his words sarcastically. If you ask me, Lily would make the better wife, gentle, considerate. I picked up my champagne and turned to leave. My heels clicked crisply against the marble floor. Anna. Sophie rushed over. The German investor is waiting for you in the VIP lounge. The chandeliers above cast shifting lights onto the champagne glass in my hand. I had just taken a sip when I heard an exaggerated gasp behind me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Lily stood there, having spilled red wine straight onto my Valentino evening gown. The deep red spread quickly across the silver-gray silk. She covered her mouth in panic, her eyes welling up with tears in an instant. Sophie stepped in swiftly. Miss Lily, Anna is currently meeting a German investor. I really didn't mean to, Lily said suddenly, raising her voice just enough to draw attention. Her tears fell right on cue. Don't rich people like you always carry backup gowns? Just change into another one. I stared coldly at her performance. Red wine trickled down my gown and onto my Jimmy Choos. Miss Lily, I said calmly, first of all, having a backup dress is my personal habit, not an obligation. Second, is this how you rich people bully others? She cut me off, her voice trembling. So I accidentally spilled a little wine and you're going to be this aggressive? She glanced around, successfully drawing even more attention. I know I can't compare to wealthy heiresses like you. I let out a small laugh and raised a hand to stop her. First of all, that wasn't a little wine. That was a direct hit. I pointed toward the German investor who was already making his way to the exit. That's the investor the Miller Group has been expecting for 3 months, the third party said flatly. Anna. Jason suddenly appeared behind Lily, his brow tightly furrowed. Lily immediately shrank behind him as if she'd just found her protector. Sniffling, she said, Jason. I just wanted to say hi to Anna. I didn't mean to. My hand cramped all of a sudden. Sophie scoffed coldly. And it just happened to spill on Anna's dress? What a coincidence. Jason's eyes paused briefly on the ruined gown I was wearing. Then, unbelievably, he turned to me and said, Anna Miller, that's enough. Lily already apologized. I slowly pulled a wipe from my clutch and began cleaning the red wine from my fingers. Mr. Miller, may I ask in what capacity you're speaking to me right now? I lifted my gaze to him. As my ex-husband, or as Miss Lily's spokesperson? A few restrained gasps sounded around us. Lily's face went instantly pale. Jason's pupils shrank. I snapped my fingers toward a staff member. Could you show me to the changing room, please? Before I left, I turned to Lily with a slight smile. Oh right, didn't you just say us rich people like to bully others? I took out my phone. Then why don't we let everyone take a look at the security footage and see who's bullying whom? Lily's expression froze on the spot. I turned with elegance, leaving behind a stir of whispers and surprise. Red wine was still dripping from my gown, but my steps didn't falter in the slightest. I didn't do it on purpose, Lily murmured, head lowered, her voice barely audible. We're all friends. It's not that big of a deal. Sophie laughed aloud. Not a big deal? Anna's been working with this German investor for 3 months. This deal involves hundreds of millions in overseas acquisitions for the Miller Group, so yeah, I'd say it is a big deal. Jason suddenly grabbed my wrist. I noticed the slight crease in his brow and a flash of panic in his eyes. I know class personally. I can help you reschedule. I shook his hand off and let out a cold laugh. And, what's your so-called friendship worth, Mr. Miller? How about this? Sign a $100 million personal guarantee agreement right now. He softened his tone and moved closer. The investor didn't storm off. We can set another meeting later. My gaze shifted to Lily. Don't drag innocent people into our issues, I nearly laughed. What is this investor your family's servant now? Ready at your beck and call? My eyes swept past Lily's reddened eyes. Jason, with how good you are at twisting the truth, it's a shame you're not a lawyer. Jason. Lily suddenly tugged at his sleeve, her voice breaking. I'll go apologize to Anna. I'll even kneel if I have to. Spare me. I cut off her performance. This whole play of retreating to advance, I've seen enough. Anna Miller. Jason's voice dropped to a harsh tone, tears slipped from Lily's eyes again. Jason turned to his assistant. Go get the backup gown from the car. Then he softened his tone as he looked at me. In a couple days, I'll introduce you to a few other investors. I picked up my bag and signaled to Sophie. Keep those for your dear Miss Lily. The Miller Group doesn't need your handouts. Behind me, I heard a few murmurs. Such a bad temper. I didn't even look back. My heels echoed sharply across the marble floor as the ballroom lights cast a long, sharp shadow behind me. The red wine had blossomed into a dark stain across my dress, but I didn't care. I'm sorry, Anna, Sophie said the moment we got into the car, pulling at her hair in frustration. If I'd known we'd run into those 2 dogs tonight, I'd never have let you come. I rolled down the window, letting the wind blow away the lingering scent of gala perfume. I should be the one thanking you. My phone screen lit up. An email from the German investor appeared front and center. Class confirmed, meeting rescheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow. Sophie whipped her head around. It's on? It's on. I locked my screen calmly. We didn't do anything wrong. Why should we pay for someone else's stupidity? As the car crossed the river bridge, I spoke up quietly. This morning, I told Jason I wanted a divorce. Sophie's fingers tensed on the steering wheel. Anna, he's not worth it. She began, but hesitated. To be honest, no one in our circle believes it. Believes what? Sophie asked. I don't believe Anna Miller would actually leave Jason, she said with a sarcastic salute. My reflection overlapped with the city's neon outside the car window. Suddenly, memories from a winter when I was 15 came rushing back. I had been cornered in an alley by 3 thugs. Jason came charging in, throwing a brick without hesitation. Blood streamed down his forehead from a gash, but he still smiled and said, "Just marry me someday." The snow was heavy that day. I helped him walk home, our tracks in the snow trailing behind us like rubies. The palms of our clasped hands were so hot, it scared me. The scar on his temple never faded. I secretly drew 27 hearts for him in my diary. Everyone believed I'd never be able to leave him. My mom believed it. Even I believed it for so many years. Sophie suddenly braked as a pair of high schoolers dashed hand in hand across the zebra crossing. The girl's ponytail swayed as they ran. The boy's backpack was half unzipped. Look, I said, pointing at them. Don't they look like us back when he used to sneak over the school wall to bring me breakfast? The streetlights flickered, catching the redness in Sophie's eyes. I patted the back of her hand. It's okay. Being inseparable, that was a childhood thing. I opened my photo gallery and started deleting every single picture of me and Jason. One by one. I'm heading somewhere now, a place where he doesn't exist. The sound of the delete key was barely audible, as soft as the blood-slick whisper of Jason's voice in my ear when he once said, "My little princess, don't ever grow up." I really thought I could be Jason's little princess forever, until 6 months ago, when his first love, Lily, suddenly returned from abroad. The first time I met her was on Jason's birthday. I had reserved an entire floor of the Red Grape Hotel. The ground was covered with roses. Even the band was playing his favorite serenade. I was adjusting my pearl earrings in the mirror when the elevator doors opened behind me. Reflected in the glass, Jason had his arm around a woman in a white dress. "Jason," she said softly, her head lowered, her voice so delicate it gave me chills. "Do you think Anna will be upset that you brought me along on your date?" "It's fine," Jason replied casually, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "She's not that petty." When I turned around, one of my earrings swung painfully against my cheek. She already knew her presence would upset me. Yet she came anyway. I ignored Jason completely and stared straight at Lily. "Miss Lily, you seem to enjoy involving yourself in other people's marriages." She recoiled like a frightened rabbit. I didn't." Jason frowned and called over a server. "Please escort Miss Lily home." Then, turning to me, he wore a completely different expression. "Was that really necessary?" He looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "Her family's all overseas. She just got back, everything's unfamiliar to her. What are you even mad about?" "I don't like her," I said, eyes fixed on the descending elevator numbers. "She's just pitiful," Jason softened his tone. "Her whole family immigrated. She just got back and doesn't know how anything works here. My grandma asked me to take care of her. Once she's adjusted, I won't bother with her anymore." I let out a cold laugh. For the past 6 months, Lily had been a walking disaster. On movie nights, she fainted from low blood sugar. At our candlelit dinner, her pipes burst at home. On our wedding anniversary, she claimed someone was stalking her and called the cops. Every time, Jason would drop everything and leave me. And every time he came back, he'd say it was nothing, just helping out. "What are you jealous about?" "I don't like her anymore." That was Jason's go-to excuse. Everyone told me to be understanding. "She's had it so hard. It's just a little help." Even my best friend said, "Jason treats you well. Don't sweat the small stuff." But I couldn't get past it. I couldn't make peace with it. I'd thrown tantrums, smashed the watch he gave me, torn up the postcards Lily sent him. The worst time, I shattered our wedding photo and threw it at him, and told him I wanted a divorce. And then I would toss and turn in the middle of the night, staring at my phone, waiting for a message from him. In the end, I'd always be the one to give in first, texting him something like, "My stomach hurts," just to get him to show up with some congee. I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go of the boy who shielded me from a blade when we were 15. I couldn't let go of Jason, who knelt in the snow at 20, proposing with trembling hands. Even as recently as last month, I still foolishly believed we could go back to how we used to be. After yet another argument over Lily, Jason did something rare. He booked us a trip for 2 to Italy. At the Trevi Fountain in Rome, he kissed me and said he truly wanted to make it up to me this time. I'd touched my still flat belly that night, planning to tell him over dinner that I was pregnant. But the next morning, Lily called. "Jason, my head feels so dizzy." Her voice on the phone was weak, just perfectly weak enough. I watched Jason's jaw tense immediately, a reaction I knew too well. The pregnancy test slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. "It's just low blood sugar. Can't she call an ambulance?" I heard my voice shaking. Jason was already slipping into his coat, not even pausing. "She's alone back home." "And what about me?" I grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. "I'm alone in a foreign country. Does that make me any safer?" He didn't even glance back as he left. The hotel door shut behind him with a dull thud. I stumbled after him and barely made it into the hallway when I was dragged to the ground by a thief snatching my bag. The sharp pain in my abdomen folded me in half. Blood began to stream down my thighs. All I could think was, when Jason gets back, I'll make sure he regrets this. As the ambulance wailed through the streets, I clutched my phone and sent him 13 messages. From "something happened to me" to "when are you coming back?" No reply. 3 days later, still in my hospital bed, I saw Lily's new post on her social media. "Thanks to someone for staying by my side night and day." The photo was of Jason, asleep on the sofa in her hospital room. A little heart emoji sat underneath his profile. I touched my now empty belly and suddenly laughed. Turns out, divorce wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it would be. When I was discharged, I left our wedding ring on the nightstand by the hospital bed. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, hitting the ring just right, so bright it stung my eyes. It was like my 20 years of love had finally been burned down to ash by reality. On the 15th day after we submitted the divorce papers to the court, it happened to be Jason's grandmother's 80th birthday. I chose a Chanel haute couture suit and swapped my diamond studs for simple pearl earrings. Respectful, but with a message. After all, the Millers in my family were longtime friends, and Grandma Miller had always treated me like her own granddaughter. I owed her that much. At the banquet hall entrance, I was holding my father's arm when I came face to face with Jason and Lily, walking gracefully together. Lily was wearing a gown I had seen at Paris Fashion Week last year. Her fingers clung to Jason's arm like a snake. "Anna." Jason's eyes landed on my bare ring finger. I nodded slightly and walked straight toward the main table. Behind me, I heard Lily's syrupy voice. "Jason, do you think Grandma will like the jade piece I picked out for her?" When it came time to sit, Jason deliberately pushed aside my cousin and sat right next to me. That familiar blend of sandalwood and whiskey clung to him. Under the table, his warm palm covered the back of my hand. "It's been over 2 weeks," he murmured, his thumb rubbing across the faint tan line where my ring used to be. "You're still mad?" I pulled my hand away and took a sip of champagne. "Mr. Miller, you must have a bad memory. We're already divorced." He chuckled, the vibration of his chest making the chair between us subtly tremble. "So how many days is this divorce supposed to last?" I ignored him and turned to my cousin to talk about the new art gallery that had just opened. As the banquet reached its peak, his mother brought up that all-too-familiar topic again. "You two aren't getting any younger." She gave me a meaningful glance and then looked at my stomach. "It's time to think about the next generation." Lily suddenly chimed in, her voice so sweet it practically curdled. "That's right. Jason has such excellent genes." She looked down, shy and demure. "If it were me, I'd definitely want to have a few." The entire table fell silent. I set down my chopsticks and gently wiped the corners of my mouth. Under the crystal chandelier, Grandma Miller's silver hair was perfectly combed, not a strand out of place. She turned to me and asked with a sharp gleam in her eye, "Anna, how have you been feeling lately? Anyone foolish enough to upset you?" Lily's chopsticks slipped from her fingers and landed on the porcelain plate with a loud clack. "He's just being stubborn with me," Jason cut in, ahead of everyone, winking at his grandmother. "Who knows when she'll finally forgive me?" Under the table, his hand snuck toward mine again. "Grandma, help me out here. Say something on my behalf." I moved my knee away and focused on the Longjing shrimp in my bowl. His hand hovered awkwardly in the air. "Having kids, deciding how many, that's a big deal." Jason's uncle suddenly chimed in. "You two should really plan it properly." Lily jumped in immediately. "Exactly. I'm an only child and it's so lonely." Her eyes sparkled as she turned to Jason. "If it were me, I'd want at least 2, so the siblings could look out for each other." "Miss Lily," I said calmly, setting down my chopsticks and napkin, then wiping the corner of my mouth. "The third dish to your right is braised soft-shelled turtle. It nourishes the kidneys and boosts fertility." I gave her a bright smile as I scooped a spoonful and offered it. "Eat more, you'll need the strength for all that dreaming." After the birthday banquet, Jason caught up with me lazily along the garden path. The moonlight stretched his shadow long across the cobblestones, landing right at my toes. "You've had enough time to cool off. Take me off your block list, okay?" he said, waving his phone. The screen lit up, then dimmed again. I almost laughed. "Mr. Miller, the ink on our divorce agreement hasn't even dried." I stepped around him. "Try acting your age, ex-husband." He suddenly wrapped his arms around me from behind. That familiar scent of sandalwood mixed with whiskey sank down on me again. I rebooked the Italy trip. This time, even if the sky falls, I'm not leaving. His lips brushed my ear. If you don't add me back, how can I send you the itinerary? I jabbed my elbow into his ribs and took the chance to pull away. One time being left in a foreign hospital is more than enough for a lifetime. He had the nerve to use his height advantage to snatch my phone, unlocking it with my fingerprint like it was second nature. The familiar click of the phone opening revealed a photo of us in Venice from last year. First thing I need to do when I get back is change my password. He scrolled through my contacts like it was his own device. Still giving me the silent treatment until the day we leave? His ease with my phone, fluid and practiced, was exactly how it had always been during our 5 years together. The screen lit up with our lock screen photo, taken in the Maldives last year. I stared at it and suddenly realized how ridiculous I was. The password was still his birthday. He waved the phone, flashing that confident, charming smile of his. What, are we really going to stay in a Cold War until vacation day? Vacation? I snatched my phone back. Have you forgotten what we are now, Mr. Miller? Even riding the same elevator's awkward. He suddenly leaned in, his breath hot at my ear. Do you really want a divorce, Mrs. Miller? I took a half step back, my heels crunching against the moonlit cobblestones. Did you think I was joking? So eager to get divorced? Jason suddenly grabbed my wrist, a shadow of something darker flashing in his eyes. Don't tell me. There's another man? He let out a cold chuckle. Don't even think about it. In this life, Jason, Lily's sweet voice cut in like syrup over glass. Can I go to Italy with you guys? I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. I had to admit, Lily's talent for shameless persistence was nothing short of impressive. Jason clearly froze, then frowned. Sorry, this is a trip for my wife and me. I stayed silent. Lily hurried forward, clutching the sleeve of Jason's suit. I promise I won't be in the way. I'll stay in a separate room, and my Italian's really good, I can even translate. I stared at her endlessly flapping mouth and suddenly felt a wave of absurdity. For the past 6 months, this woman had been like an inescapable leech, always perfectly timed to ruin every private moment Jason and I had. Fine, I said. Let him go with you. I flung Jason's hand off mine, my heels clicking crisply along the pebbled path. I don't have time. Even one more second makes me sick. But before I could walk away, a strong hand yanked my wrist. Jason cut ahead of me in 3 quick steps, blocking my path. The moon cast a deep shadow across his brow bone, pooling beneath his eyes. Vacations like this, Jason said, his tone impossibly smooth, are obviously meant for husband and wife. I crossed my arms and looked over at Lily, not far away, who was standing there all pitiful, biting her lower lip with teary eyes like some abandoned little animal. You're sure you're not taking her? I raised my chin toward her. She's about to cry. Can you really be that heartless? Jason didn't even look back. His thumb lightly stroked the inside of my wrist. Why would I bring her? She's not my wife. The night wind carried the sound of Lily's barely stifled sobbing. And suddenly, I remembered that rainy night in Rome 6 months ago, when I was pregnant, lying alone in the ER. The only message I received from Jason was, Lily fainted. I'm flying back first for her checkup. That time I left you overseas. That was my fault, Jason said suddenly, his voice softer now. His fingers brushed against the faint mark on my ring finger. Lily didn't have anyone here in the country, but you're so strong. So being strong means I deserve to be neglected? I yanked my hand away. That tender spot on my finger stung like fire. Jason suddenly pulled me into his arms. That familiar scent of sandalwood wrapped around me, overwhelming. It's settled then, he murmured, holding me tight. I'll arrange for a private jet. He kissed the top of my head, like he was comforting a tantrum-throwing child. All right now, enough drama? Lily's sobs finally broke free. I looked past Jason's shoulder and saw her clutching her gown and running off. Her pearl earring traced a desperate arc under the moonlight. Just then, Jason's phone buzzed. He kept one arm around me while pulling out his phone with the other. As the screen lit up, I clearly saw the lock screen message. Jason, my heart hurts so much. From Lily. He glanced down at the message and even furrowed his brows for a second. His thumb hovered over the screen, hesitating, as if unsure whether or not to respond. I let out a cold laugh and pulled away from his arms. Jason probably thought my anger had cooled. Probably thought this divorce would go the same way as all our past fights, like before, when just a little softness from him would bring me right back. But this time was different. When he saw the indifference in my face, he reached out and gently ruffled my hair, his voice tender, nearly coaxing. "When you've calmed down, just move back home, okay?" He murmured near my ear, his breath warm against my neck, like some familiar old enchantment. "I haven't touched any of your things. Even your favorite tea set is still in its place." His tone dripped with that same old confidence, like he was so sure I'd cave eventually. 2 weeks passed quickly. And in those 2 weeks, Jason acted like the divorce had never happened. He kept texting me as usual. "I've rescheduled our Italy trip. Got us a room at that castle hotel you love. Passed your favorite dessert shop today. They've got a new chestnut mousse. It's getting cold. I had the housekeeper bring your camel coat from the closet." At first, I would still reply coldly, "We're divorced. I'm not going on vacation with you." But he didn't stop, as if he thought I was just throwing a tantrum. The next day, he'd text me again. His tone was always casual, as if we had never separated. Eventually, I stopped replying altogether. But he didn't give up. If I didn't respond, he'd keep sending messages, sometimes even dropping a voice message in the middle of the night. His voice would come through low and raspy, with a hint of amusement. "What, I'm not even worth a little now, ex-husband?" I was so fed up, I'd occasionally reply with a vague or okay, but that only made him worse. The next day, he had a bouquet of white roses delivered straight to my office. The card read in dramatic cursive, "Works too." I was so furious, I threw the whole bouquet into the trash. The day the divorce certificate finally came through, I went back to my parents' house. At the dinner table, my dad ladled a bowl of soup for me and said in a calm voice, "Don't make things too stiff with the Millers." My hand froze around the spoon. My mom sighed quietly. "There's just too much business entanglement between the families." "Your dad's not blaming you," my mom said gently. "It's just, he understands." I lowered my head, stirring the soup with my spoon. "I won't let our family be caught in the middle." There was a brief silence before I suddenly asked, "Mom, Dad, do you think I've been too impulsive?" Bang! My dad suddenly slammed his hand on the table, rattling the bowls and plates. "How have you been impulsive?" he demanded, his brow tightly furrowed. "We're not blind or deaf. That boy from the Miller family and that girl Lily, something's clearly going on. We could see it even at Grandma Miller's birthday banquet." My mom put down her chopsticks and gently held my hand. "So what if you divorced him?" she said firmly. "If Jason really cared, he wouldn't have let you suffer like that." My nose stung, and I quickly lowered my head to sip my soup. "You're already divorced," my mom added, her voice firm, "and my daughter deserves better." She placed her teacup down with finality. "Aunt Linda's nephew just got back from overseas. He's young, already an executive at an investment bank. You two should meet next week." Beside her, my dad flipped through his finance magazine without even looking up. "Also, your Uncle Lee's son just launched a startup. It's almost ready to go public." I couldn't help but laugh through my frustration. "Mom, Dad, I just got divorced." "So what?" My mom shot me a look. "Don't tell me you're still waiting for that Jason to come around?" I had no reply. After the mandatory cooling-off period, the divorce certificate was finally issued. I sent it to Jason via express courier. At the same time, my mom's close friend, Aunt Linda, introduced me to a promising young man, Ethan Gu, the CTO of a multinational tech company. He was refined, well-spoken, and clearly brilliant. Aunt Linda was doing everything she could to matchmake us. Coincidentally, Ethan had a business trip to Switzerland the following week. "Anna should go with him," Aunt Linda had said. "It'll be good for her to relax a little and they can get to know each other better." I hesitated, but in the end, I didn't say no. After rearranging things at work, I packed my bags and flew to Switzerland with Ethan. At the same time, my parents also left for a vacation in Sonia, under the pretense of relieving stress. Switzerland's snowy landscape was breathtaking. Ethan was thoughtful and gentlemanly, and the trip was peaceful and well-planned. On the evening of the third day, we were having dinner at a mountaintop restaurant when my phone suddenly rang. It was my best friend, Sophie. "Anna, something happened." Sophie's voice was tight with urgency. "Jason showed up at your company, made a whole scene." My fork clattered onto the plate. What? Sophie's words came fast. Apparently, for the past few weeks, he's been telling everyone he was going to take you to Italy. Then you blocked him, and he couldn't reach you. He thought you were still mad, but... She paused. Her tone shifted to something more strained. He actually went to Italy with Lily. You blocked both of them, so you didn't see any of her posts. But Anna, I saw her social media during those days. 9 photo collages every single day, every single one with Jason in it. Anyone who didn't know would have thought he was her husband. I gripped my phone, my fingertips turning cold, but my heart felt strangely calm. Let her post whatever she wants, I said quietly. It has nothing to do with me anymore. Sophie let out a sigh. That's the thing. Jason only panicked after he received the divorce certificate you sent. Turns out he really thought I was just being dramatic. Just sulking. It wasn't until that black and white document landed in his hands that he realized I was serious this time. He went crazy trying to find me. But my parents stood firm. Even when he showed up at our house in person, they refused to let him in. He ran to every coffee shop I frequented, every gym I'd been to, even the yoga studio I used to visit. But all he got were shrugs. No idea where she went. Until one of his clients, who happened to be on a business trip in Switzerland, spotted me. Sophie's voice grew more complicated. That client thought Jason already knew about the divorce, and that client casually mentioned, "Oh, I ran into her in Switzerland. She's here on vacation with another man." Jason's face changed instantly. Sophie let out a cold laugh. That client of his was genuinely surprised. Said, "Wait, you didn't know?" I couldn't help but let out a hollow laugh. What an irony. He flaunted his trip with Lily all over Italy, yet only realized after I truly disappeared that this time I wasn't coming back. When he came to find me the day before yesterday, Sophie continued, he looked awful. Unshaven, hair a mess, nothing like his usual clean-cut self. She lowered her voice, mimicking Jason's strained tone. He asked me, why would she go on vacation with another man? "And what did you say?" I asked coldly. I told him, "Don't you already know why?" Sophie gave a half snort. He had the nerve to take Lily to Italy. That girl posted 9 photo collages every single day, all lovey-dovey with him. And now he thinks you're not allowed to go to Switzerland with someone else? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Sophie added, more quietly, "But he said he went to Italy on business. That he didn't go with Lily. She followed him there on her own." She hesitated for a beat. Honestly, he didn't sound like he was lying. My fingers tightened slightly around the phone. "So?" I asked calmly. "What difference does it make now?" "I think he's coming to find you," Sophie sighed. "No, he's already on his way." Before I could respond, I heard commotion through the phone, followed by Sophie's hushed voice. "Anna, what time is it over there right now? Jason just asked me for your hotel info. I didn't tell him, I swear. But I think he already found it." My heart skipped. Before I could speak, the doorbell rang. I froze, then walked stiffly to the door. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a familiar face. Jason. He looked rough. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, it gave him a disheveled, almost desperate air. But those eyes were locked on the door like he could see straight through it. I took a deep breath and opened it. He stared at me, voice raspy. "Having fun?" I looked at him blankly. "You came all the way here just to ask that, Mr. Miller?" His gaze drifted past me, landing on Ethan. Instantly his expression darkened. "Who is he?" Ethan, holding a cup of hot cocoa, stepped forward with a calm smile. "Would you like some?" Then, turning to me, he asked, "Do you need me to stay?" I shook my head and took the cup. The warmth spread through my hands as I looked out the window at the snowy Alps. "Thank you, Mr. Gu." Then I added with a faint smile, "This is my ex-husband." Ethan nodded. "If you need anything, just call. I'll be next door." I turned, went into the kitchen, and poured a second cup of hot cocoa, then gestured for Jason to follow me out onto the balcony. The Swiss night was quiet. In the distance, the silhouette of the Alps stretched under the moonlight like a silent painting. Jason took the cup, his fingertips cold, but his eyes never left my face. "I need an explanation," he said quietly. "We're divorced," I stated, calm and matter of fact. He looked at me, stunned. There was a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. "Just because I left you in Italy?" I took a sip of cocoa, its sweetness spreading on my tongue. "Let's go with that," I said lightly. His grip tightened around the cup, knuckles turning white. "How could you be so heartless?" he asked, voice taut. "Just throw away years of marriage like it meant nothing?" Then, lower. "What exactly was I to you?" "My ex-husband," I said. I looked up at him, the corners of my lips lifting ever so slightly. "Since you're my ex-husband, what I do with another man has nothing to do with you, does it?" He shot to his feet. The cup in his hand slammed against the table with a sharp thud. "Why?" he demanded, eyes fixed on me. "You've fallen for someone else? That man just now?" I let out a soft, bitter laugh. "Jason, you've spent too much time around Lily. You've started projecting your own filth onto everyone else." The night breeze brushed past us as his expression slowly hardened. I stood as well. "When you were parading Lily around in public, did you ever stop to ask yourself what you were turning me into?" I looked him in the eye. "And now you show up asking questions? Don't you think it's a little late for that?" I turned, about to head back inside, but he suddenly grabbed my arm. The force nearly threw me off balance. 20 years of childhood together, 5 years of marriage. His voice was hoarse, unrecognizable. His eyes were bloodshot. "All because I left you in Italy. You want a divorce?" His fingers clamped tightly around my wrist, like if he let go, I'd disappear for good. "What am I to you?" he asked through clenched teeth, every word dragged out as if it were being torn from his chest. "Am I just someone you can toss away when it's convenient, call back whenever you want?" His voice trembled now. "Do you even have a heart? Do you have any idea how much I was looking forward to that trip to Italy?" His breathing turned ragged. "Do you know how much I planned for it?" His eyes glistened, like a child both furious and wounded. "I thought, after we made up, we'd try for a baby. Finally settle down and live like a real couple again." He laughed, self-mocking. "I even started designing the nursery." His eyes were so red, so raw, as he stared at me like he wanted to memorize my face, carve it into his bones. "I was such an idiot, planning out our whole future," he whispered. "And you, had you already decided to leave me? Was playing me part of the fun?" His voice cracked, and behind his gaze swirled a storm of hurt and barely restrained fury. I looked at him quietly, saying nothing. The morning sunlight hit his face, illuminating every detail: furrowed brows, bloodshot eyes, trembling lips. That once impenetrable, ever-confident face now looked nothing but broken and lost. I turned around and gently set the now cold cocoa back on the table. The ceramic cup met the glass surface with a soft clink. "Jason," I said with my back to him, voice low, "do you know why I stayed in Italy for a whole week after you left me there?" He froze. The air around us went still. Even our breathing became painfully loud. I turned to face him and saw the color drain from his face. "I was pregnant," I said quietly, "and on the Spanish steps I was mugged. I lost the baby." His pupils contracted sharply. He stood frozen, as if nailed to the floor, unable to speak or move. "I had to go through surgery alone," I continued. "The nurse asked me if I had any family she should call. Do you know how desperate I felt at that moment?" His lips trembled, but no words came out. Outside the window, the Alps stood tall and silent beneath the moonlight, bearing witness to this long-overdue reckoning. I gazed out at the snowy peaks, watching the moonlight glint off the slopes like a cold, relentless glow. "I don't know when it started," I said softly, "but the boy who used to run only toward me, his eyes started seeing someone else." Jason stood frozen in place, his breathing shallow and shaky. "You left me alone in a movie theater because Lily got sick. When both she and I needed you, you chose to be with her." I let out a quiet laugh. "He used to freak out if I so much as caught a cold." His fingers dug deep into his palms, knuckles turning white. From his throat came a hoarse voice, choked with emotion. Anna, I cut him off, my tone unnervingly calm. "That moment you left me in Italy without looking back. I let go." His pupils shrank sharply, like he'd been hit square in the chest. He staggered a little, staring at me, disoriented. "So, after you came back from Italy, you were already planning to divorce me?" he asked, stunned, disbelief swirling in his eyes. I nodded slowly. "Yes." "You didn't even notice," I added with a faint smile. "I'd already moved everything back to my parents' house." His expression went completely blank, like the realization knocked the air out of him. No way," he murmured. I remember your clothes were still in the closet." Those were just a few old pieces I left behind on purpose, I said, meeting his eyes. I wanted to see how long it would take for you to notice. His face drained of color, inch by inch, as if he was finally beginning to understand. That day, he began, his voice cracked and broken, the day you came back from Italy. You were at the hospital with Lily, I finished for him, my lips curling into a bitter, almost amused smile. Even though you knew I never liked her. Jason suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my wrist again, his grip harsh and desperate. No, he said, voice trembling with panic. I never liked Lily. Anna, I was wrong. I didn't know what was going to happen that day. I looked at his tear-reddened eyes. The same eyes that once made my heart skip, now only held pain. Not every wound deserves forgiveness, I said quietly. I turned and pushed open the glass door to the balcony. Just like not every love lasts to the end. Ethan was standing inside, holding my coat. His gaze met mine, quiet, calm, steady. I walked toward him. Behind me, Jason's voice called out, raw and broken. Anna, but I didn't look back. The mountain wind swept in, carrying the cold of the snow-covered peaks with it. And just like that, everything between Jason and me was truly over. Later, Sophie told me that Jason sat in the hotel lobby in Switzerland all night. He didn't leave until the sun came up. As for me and Ethan, we continued our journey. We strolled through quaint towns beneath the snow-capped mountains, drank hot chocolate in cozy cafes, and watched the morning mist drift over the frozen lakes. Life finally returned to where it was meant to be. Peaceful, free. No more waiting, no more disappointment.